Alright, we're here once again, another UFC pay-per-view fight week. UFC 297 takes place this Saturday, and the main event is one that a lot of people have been talking about. I mean, to be honest, I've been trying to wash out the taste of that last UFC 296 pay-per-view with that main event that happened because, holy shit, I was so angry at that main event. Like, Colby Covington, nothing in that fight. But we are now a month away from that, so I think we should stop talking about that, move on, and talk about this fight, Sean Strickland and Dricus Du Plessis. Now, 2 months ago, I think people might have been excited for this matchup, and today, this was a cool competitive matchup. You know, this is a guy in Dricus who does deserve a title shot that kind of got fucked in that whole situation with Australia getting injured in that Robert Whittaker fight. But he was supposed to fight Israel Adesanya, right? So this is kind of redoing the wrongs. Now he's getting his shot that we waited for a while. But I think that would have been it. I think a lot of people would have looked at it as just a good competitive matchup up until UFC 296, where a day beforehand we saw at the press conference, I mean, these two going back and forth right at it, with Dricus Du Plessis bringing up how Sean Strickland was abused by his father.
I think your dad beat the shit out of you. Your dad doesn't have shit on me. Every childhood memory you have is gonna come back.
And of course, later on the next day, we saw Sean Strickland attack Dricus Du Plessis, throwing elbows to the back of his head, even according to Sean Strickland biting him. And since then, we've also seen the podcast with Theo Vaughn, where we saw Sean Strickland crying on the podcast, talking about some of the stuff that Dricus did and talking about his past. And that definitely plays a factor in all this, because this is the most emotional we've seen Sean Strickland going into a fight, right? It's still very important to maintain those emotions, right? We've seen time and time again, especially with fights like with Conor McGregor, where a certain opponent might be agitated, might be annoyed by him, and then rush out there like Jose Aldo did, throwing that right hand and getting countered right away. So that is something very important that we're going to talk about. Can Sean Strickland actually maintain those emotions going into the fight? And before we get into the matchup, this is a perfect time to remind you guys to the subscribe button, like, comment, and share, because it truly helps the channel, helps the algorithm. It lets them know you like the video, and will help share my videos through the algorithm, and a lot more people can watch. So if you guys wouldn't mind showing me some support, I really would appreciate it. Sean Strickland and Dricus Du Plessis, right? The two were set to fight this Saturday, the main event, UFC 297 in Toronto, Canada. And Sean Strickland, of course, is coming off of that amazing year he had, that amazing performance against Israel Adesanya, where he knocked him down and dominated him through the whole fight. I mean, right? We really could see Israel Adesanya winning one round. And outside of that, I mean, even that round was pretty close, but outside of that, it's a clear Sean Strickland 4 rounds to 1. And regardless of what you want to say, maybe Izzy was injured in the fight or whatever, I still think that was a very good performance from Sean Strickland. We're also talking about Dricus Du Plessis, who is also coming off of his best performance in his career against Robert Whittaker. Now, no one else has really beat Robert Whittaker outside of Israel Adesanya, right? Of course, I'm talking about in the middleweight division. So when Dricus beat him, it was a massive deal. I mean, he was a big underdog going into the fight and made it look rather easy, right? I mean, the first round he won. It kind of just had a lot of activity in that fight. Now, I have heard since that Robert Whittaker might have been injured going into that fight. But regardless, still, I think that Dricus Du Plessis did look good in his fight. And I think it had a lot to do with that surgery that he got. Now, if you guys don't know, he recently got a surgery for his nose. Through his whole career, most of his career, at least, his nose wasn't working. He could barely breathe out of his nose, and now he is actually able to breathe out of his nose, which might explain the good performance from Robert Whittaker. And if we're taking that at its word, then we can't really look at his other performances. But let's get into it. How does Sean Strickland win? How does Dricus Du Plessis win? Alright, Sean Strickland, we know, is very good defense, but also the worst. Now, what do I mean by this? Now, I want to say I've seen online this debate over the past break. Does Sean Strickland have good defense or not? Some people have said, yes, look at his performance against Izzy, checking those leg kicks, not getting hit a lot. And a lot of people, especially Dricus Du Plessis supporters, have said, no, Sean Strickland only flares his arms out, jumping backwards, and that it's not good defense. Sean Strickland has good defense and bad defense, right? He does not have the most technical defense, but because the guy spars, his reflexes are so good that he gets away with stuff like that and kind of invents his new defense in a way. And it's just based on reflex, right? And luckily for Sean, he has very good reflexes. But that's going to run him into problems when he runs into guys like Alex Pereira, who's going to set up a shot and is going to trick Sean Strickland and notice some of those patterns that he has. And at the end of the day, technique is always going to win. In most cases, I should say, unless you have something like power or a different attribute or you get caught by something. We saw Alex Pereira set up that left hook shot, trick Sean Strickland thinking it was a jab, and perfectly finding his chin and knocking him out. And that is where we're going to see Sean Strickland run into some problems with someone that could set up some shots, and that's going to be up to Dricus. And that's why we're going to start with Dricus. Dricus Du Plessis has to set up some shots. I have a feeling that Dricus Du Plessis is going to try to set up that left high kick. We see Dricus Du Plessis switch, from southpaw to orthodox, block. He was in southpaw a lot during that Robert Whittaker fight, landing those kicks to the body. And I think that would be a perfect shot because Sean Strickland at the end of the day does have that heavy boxing style. And we have seen Strickland get caught by head kicks by Abus Magomedov. And if Dricus could actually set it up across a 5-round fight, we could see another situation like Leon Edwards, where he might throw a left hand and a left high kick behind it, having Sean Strickland lean into it. It's also up to Dricus to use the grappling, alright? Dricus' grappling is very good. We saw it in the Robert Whittaker fight, right? He took him down, got him in a headlock, and put him to the ground. And I think that's going to be useful against Sean Strickland, mixing up the takedowns, having Sean Strickland at least think about certain stuff, because this is my last thing for Dricus. He cannot go backwards. We've seen Sean Strickland time and time again. When people go backwards, that is where he tees off. When they cover up like Dricus Du Plessis tends to do, that is where he tees off. Look at the fight with Abus Magomedov, right? He really pushed for that finish, or we could see a situation where maybe Dricus Du Plessis, putting his hands up thinking he's safe, and Sean Strickland's going to throw a bunch of combinations, fast combinations around the guard. And that's another thing that's important for Dricus Du Plessis, the movement. He cannot stay still and put his hands up no matter how tired he gets. He also has to have good cardio going into this fight, man. The guy has to be able to make it 5 rounds. We have seen him 5 rounds. He's fought 5-round fights in the past. Not in the UFC, of course, but we've seen him fight 5-round fights before. So that definitely will help him go into the matchup, understanding, what will tire him out and things like that. And this is a big moment for Dricus Du Plessis. Like, we've seen Sean Strickland kind of not care about the title, which kind of helps him in a way. It helps relieve a lot of the pressure from Sean Strickland because he genuinely doesn't care about the title. He's looking at it as just another fight. Now let's talk about Sean Strickland. What could he do? I think the jab is going to be key, alright? We have seen that Sean Strickland has a very good jab, right? He's very good in and out of range, understanding distance, and we've seen him pop that jab out, even in the center, right? We've seen him, pop the jab up, step back, wait for the counter, jab again, counter. He's perfect at baiting his opponents, and that's what he does a lot of in his fight, right? Jab, wait for the counter, return. Over and over again, we've seen people like Abus Magomedov, when they fought Sean Strickland, really bait for that, right? And really gas himself out trying to find the counter, and that's something that I am worried about Dricus Du Plessis, right? We've seen in the Robert Whittaker fight, when he is pushed against the fence with his hands up, he will try to throw, and Sean Strickland is the type of guy where he's just going to slide backwards if you're against the cage, right? He's just going to have all that room, he's going to be able to slide backwards, and he's not going to be able to get hit by those. All it's going to do is gas Dricus Du Plessis out, and depending on how many times Sean Strickland can get that position where Dricus Du Plessis is backed up against the cage, that could be a lot of energy used from Dricus, whether he's trying to get a takedown, whether he's trying just to, land something to get respect. So Sean Strickland has to ease into this fight, use the jab, meticulously put him backwards without being super aggressive and overextending yourself with the right hand. That's why a jab is so important, because you could put people back without really extending yourself all the way. So it's going to be up to Sean Strickland to really push him backwards, and I hope he's been working his grappling. It seems like he has. We've seen him in that wrestling suit. It looks like that he's going to try to use a little bit of wrestling to try to defend some things, maybe could shoot some takedowns of his own. We've seen in the past where he's used ground and pound, he actually has some good wrestling, good ground and pound. You'd have to take it back all the way to 2015, all the way to 2016. You could look back in his debut against Bubba McDaniels, landing some good ground and pound up there and getting a first-round submission. But outside that, we haven't really seen him use his grappling, so how is it? An interesting stat from 2019 to 2024, Sean Strickland has only had 2 takedown shots against him, both from Abus Magomedov. So we haven't really seen his takedown defense so much, but I will say, if you look at his fight with Kamaru Usman, where Sean Strickland was a lot smaller, was a welterweight, and we've seen Kamaru Usman take down guys time and time again, he defended the takedowns rather well in that fight. And we know Usman's wrestling credentials, right? We know he's a high-level wrestler. Finally, for Sean Strickland, do not let the emotions get to you. Do not, overextend yourself trying to finish this guy because of the things that he said in the build-up. He has to stay cool, calm, and collected. We saw in the Theo Vaughn podcast, obviously Sean Strickland was very upset about, some of the stuff being brought up and basically him having to relive a lot of his childhood. And to add on top of that, he has to do all of it in the public eye. While he has a fight coming up, someone constantly bringing up and disrespecting him, you have to wonder, can Sean Strickland really handle those emotions? We've seen that this guy is rather emotional, right? We see him get angry a lot. We've seen him have kind of just rash reactions. And I like Sean Strickland, but this is just the truth, right? And you can't have that going into a fight, right? You have to calm down. And Sean Strickland looks like to be in the best shape of his career. I mean, we've seen some pictures recently, and I think we've talked about this enough. Who do I think is going to win this UFC 297 main event, guys? I'm gonna go with Sean Strickland. Guys, I think that Sean Strickland is the better fighter. But at the end of the day, what makes this fight close is the finishing potential from Dricus, because we know that this guy has power. He's gotten knockouts before, vicious knockouts, and he also has gotten submissions, like over Darren Till, but Darren Till might not be the best example, and he has dangerous knockout power. So I think it's going to be interesting. Can Sean Strickland really use that jab and keep away? I think so. I think we've seen Sean Strickland's style time and time again. I think he's going to use that jab, wait for Dricus to counter. I think Dricus is going to keep trying to counter back, missing a lot, and I think the first 2 rounds are going to be rather close. I think we're going to say, oh, this is a very close fight, but I think as we get to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round, I think Dricus is really going to gas in those later rounds with missing so many of the shots, and I think that we're going to start seeing even Sean using his grappling, because I think that we're going to see Dricus Dricus Du Plessis fail some takedowns. Maybe Sean will get top position from those. And then I think we're going to see Sean Strickland win a 49-46 decision. I think we'll see Dricus win at least one of those rounds, but I think it'll be pretty close. But I think outside of those two, I think that Sean Strickland is going to dominate those last 3 rounds and quite clearly win. And yeah, I got Sean Strickland by decision. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you guys think that Sean Strickland can beat Dricus Du Plessis by decision? But guys, with it being a new year of the UFC, if you guys want to see my top 5 fights that I want to see this year, click the video on the screen right now. I talked about the top 5 fights, bringing up fighters like Israel Adesanya, Hamzat Chimaev, John Jones, you name it, all the biggest stars in the sport. I'm going to talk about the top 5 fights. I released that a few days ago, guys. Go check that out. Thank you guys for watching. You guys continue to be the best fan base in MMA. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.